This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
1.7 is plenty of time to get a shot up. They give it to Gee. Double crunch. And that will do it. So Utah gets win number 20. The Warriors go 1-2 on the road trip. They're not going to have a lot of time to think about this because they deal with Chicago at Chase Center tomorrow night on a back-to-back. The Warriors have had a lot of frustrating losses this year, and this one will be right near the top.
Yeah, without question, especially when you look at Utah actively trying to lose games. Keontae George not playing down the stretch for the most part for the Jazz. Warriors kind of cobbled it together tonight. They sent Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis home, didn't play either of them tonight because the Jazz lacking some bigs. There's going to be some things questioned here in terms of minutes for Seth Curry, who performed well in his first game in over 3 months, and some questionable decision-making in terms of the shot selection throughout the course of the game for the Warriors. They took a lot of bad shots, but again, when you go talent for talent tonight, I do think you look up and the Warriors on paper had a talent advantage or at least a relatively even game. Now, the Jazz have more talent than the Dubs if they have all their guys playing against the guys who are currently available for the Warriors, but that wasn't the case, and Utah, again, pulled a bunch of their guys out. So we welcome you in here. Warriors lose this one 119-116. A lot of hand-wringing, a lot of consternation, a lot of angst tonight. You can feel it via social media among the Warrior fan base, but they lose this one 119-116. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader as the Warriors fall to 32-32. As you hear Fitz say there on the call that we play, courtesy of NBC Sports Bay Area, coming in, Warriors go 1-2 on the road trip. And I think effectively this loss negates the Houston win. And so on paper, you'd think going into that trip, hey, the Warriors are going to probably lose in Houston and OKC. Utah's going to be the most winnable of the three. Although, as we talked about, don't count that or any game in the non-Steph, non-Jimmy universe as a game this team is going to be a lock to win. They are that under-talented. And tonight, while I did think the competitive spirit was there for the Warriors, I thought they took a ton of lazy shots in the game throughout the course of the game. Way too many threes, didn't move the ball around, didn't look to attack the Jazz inside, didn't look to get the Jazz really to foul them until the fourth quarter of this game. And the Warriors did end up hitting 16 threes, but 16 of 52 attempts in this one. Again, not a lot of ball pressure for Utah. The Warriors only turned it over 9 times. Utah turned it over a ton, especially as they were coughing up their fourth quarter lead there. Not sure what was going on with Keontae George, wink, wink, nod, nod, not coming back into the game down the stretch there. But this is one that it felt like Utah, in some ways, tried to give the Warriors, even with the 10-point lead there in the fourth quarter. But I thought the Warriors lost this game throughout the game with the bad shot selection, and a lot of guys tonight. Sometimes it is simple as make or miss league, and we'll dissect, what went well, what really didn't go well for the Warriors. But, I did not like the fact that the Warriors gave both Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis this game off. And not only did they give them the game off, but they sent them home. They basically said, you're not going to go OKC to Utah. You're going to go home. and get ready to be available to play in the second of the back-to-back tomorrow. DeAnthony Melton ends up scoring 22 in this game. He's not now going to play tomorrow. Seth Curry came back, but I think was on some semblance of a minutes restriction, although he only played 12. Typically, the minutes restriction is, it's usually not as low as like 10. And so I kind of wonder, could the minutes restriction have been something more like 15? He ended up only playing 12. So we'll hear what Steve Kerr has to say and pass it along to you post-game from Salt Lake City, because I do think it was a fair question. You could say, hey, why wouldn't the Warriors go small and maybe put a little bit more shooting on the court? I don't think you would have put Curry out there instead of Podziemski or Melton, but you could have put him out there along with Podziemski and Melton and gone super small down the stretch and added a little bit more shooting. One of these games where a couple of the guys who played, 4 guys who played well for the Warriors in this game were 4 little guards, basically. And I know Melton can play up, but you look at, Podziemski, 14 points, 8 and 8, but tonight it's not the 3-point shot that hurts Podziemski, it's the free throws. And the Warriors go 14 of 21 at the free throw line. Utah, 27 of 29 from the free throw line. So advantage Jazz there. Warriors had the advantage from 3-point range. And you look paint points relatively even in this one. Warriors end up getting a bunch more field goal attempts because of the turnover battle. That Utah had turned it over 17 times. The Warriors ended up getting 19 points off the 17 turnovers. But Podziemski didn't hit free throws tonight, and that was the aggravating and frustrating component. It wasn't the threes, 4 for 6, but it was the free throws, including a couple of misses in the fourth quarter. And then it was, Seth was hitting shots tonight. LJ Cryer was hitting shots tonight in a +8. So 4 of your best players tonight were basically Cryer, Seth, Melton, and Podziemski. And so it makes it tricky as to who's going to wind up finishing the game. But again, as we have Kyle Hart, our Daly City Studios, but before we get into dissecting it and ripping this thing apart, let me read the names that we're talking about. We're talking about, poor decision in terms of lineups on March 9th. And we're talking about Seth Curry and LJ Cryer. So let's just let that sink in before everybody gets, loses their freaking mind about whether Cryer should have played more tonight or Seth could have maybe played 3 more minutes on a night where he was hitting shots and looked pretty good. It was kind of like that first game for Seth of the 2 that he played back in December. So 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. That is the number to jump in and join the conversation if you choose to here on the Sports Leader. Dubs OT with JD, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is always open. And, of course, the best YouTube chat in sports. We appreciate everybody filing in here on what is going to be a frustrating Monday night. And the Warriors lose a game that I said on Saturday they really are going to need if they're going to be the 8 seed as opposed to, I think, the 9 seed in the play-in tournament. And again, I just go back to the overall disappointment in the shot selection tonight. I thought it was kind of and this is not an excuse, it's just more, I thought the Warriors played kind of lazy. I thought they played hard, but I thought they played lazy in terms of, rather than really look to move the ball and get it inside and driving takes energy. And, ball movement takes patience. And I think there were too many times tonight where the Warriors just settled for bad shots and took the quick 3. And you look, we talked about the guys who were hitting some 3-pointers in this game. Seth, 2 for 3. LJ Cryer, 3 for 8. Pods did hit his 3s, although he couldn't hit from the free throw line, as we pointed out. But Guy Santos, 1 for 7 from 3. Draymond, 1 for 5 from 3. Quentin Post, 0 for 6 from 3. So do the math on that. You're starting front court tonight of QP, Quentin Post, Guy Santos, Draymond Green. Starting front court tonight, 2 for 18. 2 for 18 from 3. And then you add GP2 into the mix. He was 1 for 5. So 3 for 23 there. Then you add Nate Williams to the mix, and you get to 4 for, I've lost count. It's so many misses. 4 for 28. Pat Spencer, 4 for 30. So you get a 4 for 30 from Pat, Nate Williams, GP2, Quentin Post, Draymond Green, and Guy Santos. That is ugly. Ugly. Not good. Not good at all for the Warriors in this one. And again, on a night where they had a bunch of guys that weren't really hitting from deep, they were taking, far too many 3-point shots in this game. Again, people going to quibble for sure. Too many missed free throws. We talked about that. We talked about the lazy shots. I did see a lot of question in the chat already and people on social media. Why not more Seth? Why not more maybe Nate Williams in the fourth quarter? I know the frustration is continuing with Pat Spencer as he took a goose egg tonight, 0 for 4, 0 for 2 from 3, had some rebounds, but the Pat Spencer effect is kind of worn off again. And the more Pat winds up having to play, the more that's kind of happened for this season. So, yeah, could there have been a little bit more Seth? I want to hear what his minutes restriction was. I find it hard to believe it would have been under 15. So I do think there was maybe 3 minutes there that Steve Kerr could have played with in that one. And so you look at DeAnthony Melton, who ended up only playing 20 minutes in this game. And an interesting note on DeAnthony Melton from Nick Friedel. DeAnthony Melton is going to play tomorrow night. And, DeAnthony Melton, one of the players who did play well for the Warriors, but according to Steve Kerr in Utah, to the reporters on hand there in Salt Lake City, DeAnthony Melton is going to play in the back-to-back tomorrow. And that was why DeAnthony Melton was on a lighter minute cap, and they played him, I think, 7 minutes in the first half and then ended up playing him 13 in the second half, but wanted to keep him, I think, under around 20 basically to be able to have him play in both of these games. So the Warriors trying to pick their spots there. Again, I think it was a mistake. I think it was a mistake for the Warriors to give Horford. To me, if you have Horford in this game as a stabilizer offensively, I think you probably win the game. And I understand not playing Porzingis, send him home, get him ready for tomorrow. And I understand Utah doesn't have a lot of size. And so you think you can kind of get away with maybe playing smaller or playing Quentin Post and Draymond as your bigs in this game because the Jazz are so woefully undersized themselves just based on the guys who are injured for them. But I think it was a bad decision to rest both of those guys. To me, you play Horford tonight, you give Horford the night off tomorrow, and you let one of them play. You let Porzingis play tomorrow night, and you give Horford the night off, and you take your chances at home because you're probably going to get a more energetic effort from a lot of your younger players and your role players being at home. So I am going to criticize the Warriors for that. I think that's a whiff. I think that's a miss. And then again, to just send them home, didn't like that at all. And I think if you have to me, that's not being concerned with saying, hey, we got to try to win this game because it might be the difference between the 8 and the 9. It's kind of, honestly, it's not fully caring about a game tonight, despite what you're saying, and then trying to have your cake and eat it too a little bit as it relates to getting Melton in both of these games. So I don't like how the Warriors managed it there. All right, so those are some thoughts on that. We'll get into some more specifics about this one. Again, not a lot truly to glean. It is one of the more ugly losses of the season because the Jazz are pretty actively tanking at this point, and the Warriors could not take advantage because they truthfully didn't play a winning game. Most of the night it felt like, oh yeah, these guys don't have it. It's going to happen when you're as under-talented as they are, even against other under-talented teams. We've been all over that here over the last few weeks, but it is the kind of game now that puts a little pressure on tomorrow. If you can't get tomorrow before you play Minnesota and then you go on that long road trip, they're kind of right back into this danger zone where things over the next couple of weeks as they wait for Steph Curry to return could have the potential to get pretty ugly. All right, let's get to the phones. 808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. We get things rolling. Dubs OT with JD. Harry out on 101, jumping in here to get us tipped off on this Monday night edition of Dubs OT. Hey, Harry.
What's going on, JD? Hey, I completely agree with you on the Al Horford. I thought it was kind of weak that they sat him. They could have gave him the rest. And I kind of feel like Al Horford is the adult in the room. Remember how Steve Kerr always used to say that Andre Iguodala was the adult in the room? Well, I kind of feel like that's the same thing with Al Horford. And it just feels like Brandon Pajemski really struggles with him not on the floor. Like, I kind of want them married to the hip because it kind of seemed like the kids were kind of running the show. And, I mean, you look what happened tonight. I mean, let's be honest. They lost to a team that's not trying to win. They lost to a team that's not trying to win. Like, how frustrating is that as a fan? Like, realistically, how do you lose to a team that's not trying to win?
Yeah, it's brutal. You take a ton of bad shots and you can't hit. And then when you can't hit, you have guys continue to take those shots. It's ugly from that standpoint. And again, I think that the spirit was there tonight, Harry. Like, I think they played hard. I just didn't think they played smart tonight. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter who you're playing, that there has to be some semblance of a buttoned-up approach. Otherwise, as I often say, I do think this group that the Warriors are currently playing with, especially when you take away, is among the least talented in the league, which doesn't mean you're not going to win here and there, but it just means you have the ability to lose to any group. And, this, I think, is probably the worst defeat that the Warriors have had here in this last little 6-week stretch where they haven't had Steph and they haven't had Jimmy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we have the euphoria of the Houston win, which I think I called you and said that might have been, in circumstance, the best win of the season. I don't want to get too negative because, this team doesn't have their two best players. And I really thought, going back to what you said about Horford, I really thought they should have played him tonight. I really did. And One last thing before I let you go. Why, for the life of me, Brandon Pajemski, how is he a horrible free throw shooter? You're a guard. I hear all this talk about, you got to pay Brandon Pajemski in the offseason. I kind of think that he might not get as much as he wants just because he's a poor free throw shooter. JD, have a great night.
No, I appreciate it. I think with the 0 for 4 tonight, he's down to 75%. He was 77% coming in. Brandon Pajemski needs to be in the 80s. Brandon Pajemski needs to be, I think, minimum about 83% on his free throws and should never, ever, ever, never, ever have an 0 for 4 free throw game or a 2 for 6 or a 6 for 10. Like, he should never have a game where he misses 4 free throws. It never should have that. As far as the offseason and what Pajemski ultimately gets paid, it is going to be interesting because I could see a world where, the Warriors are looking at, some kind of a 4-year, I don't know, $60 million extension. And I could see Pods asking for 100. I mean, I could see Pods asking for $20-25 million a year. I don't think, given where things stand right now, before everybody drives off the road and knocks themselves out of the I don't think the Warriors are going to go for that. But I don't even necessarily think you'd go for the split of that at this point, right? Like, let's say the Warriors come in, 4 and 60, about $15 million a year, and Pods is like, probably should be closer to 100. Like, are you going to split the difference at that point and like make it 80? Probably not. Like, I'd be a little uncomfortable, with that, especially for somebody that in the best version of the team you can project to have next year is not going to be a starter. And I see Mickey D in the YouTube chat. He shouldn't get more than Moody, and Moody got 3 and 39. I think he's going to get more than Moody. I do think he's going to get more than Moses Moody. And again, even if it's 4 and 52, like it's going to be interesting because if they can't come to an agreement, then all of a sudden, and the Warriors can wait. I actually think the most likely outcome now is that the Warriors wait, especially if they are far apart, let's say in the negotiation. But if they wait, he becomes a restricted free agent again, and it's kind of the Kuminga saga all over again, where he doesn't make enough money to truly be able to trade him for anything significant. And at that point, and then you're also kind of waiting on the market to make him an offer, and then you're forced to match that offer in free agency in 2027 if you want to be able to keep him at that point. So I've said it before. I won't fully reiterate it now, but I do think the Warriors are in a little bit of a difficult point with Podziemski and with the potential negotiation. Estimated I says 13 to 14 a year is fair. Again, I think it's probably more like 15. I think my guess is the Warriors offer is probably around 4 and 60. That would be my guess. 4 years, 60. It's escaping me right now if they can do. I think they can do a 5. So it could, 5 and 80, 5 and 75, something like that. I think the Warriors probably would do that. But again, would Pods be willing to accept that, or does Pods think he's going to be worth more than that? And I think that's where things might get a little bit dicey. But I think it's probably more. I think it's probably more like about 15 a year for Brandon Podziemski. But then there's also, does he wind up being included in a trade at some point? But the problem with that is he's only going to be making about $5.6 million. And so he becomes essentially a throw-in at the price point that he's making, at that point. And so he's going to be north of 5. I see Gene 5 years, 5.5 million max. Well, just because he signs the deal doesn't mean he's going to be around. Mickey D. I don't think I can watch him for 4 or 5 years. I mean, Jordan Poole was signed to a 5-year deal, and he get the 4 or the 5 year. Anyway, whatever. He was signed to a major extension and wound up not on the team relatively quickly. So just because he gets signed to the extension, if anything, you sign him to the extension, and then he becomes, if you can keep the number relatively favorable, then he becomes somebody that you can look to move once he actually makes some money and get a better player potentially back in return. All right, 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. Let's get a few chats here. Kyle, let's get a couple of chats, and we'll take an early timeout, and then we'll kind of come back and reset everything. Warriors do lose this game to the Jazz, 119 to 116, the final. Ugly loss. No Steph, no Jimmy, no Horford, no Porzingis. Again, I think it was a mistake that the Warriors did play Horford tonight. Should have played him tonight and given him tomorrow off, especially with Porzingis back and in the fold. I would have given Porzingis tonight off, sent him home with the plan to play tomorrow against Chicago. Also, no Moses Moody, no Will Richard, and it sounds like DeAnthony Melton will play in the second of the back-to-back. Warriors, I think, lost this game in the third quarter. Once they tied the game, Nate Williams showing some hustle, the 4 offensive rebounds there that led to a putback and tied the game at 77. Right after that, the Warriors went down 10 on a 10-0 Utah run, and I think that was actually what proved to be the difference in the game, that the Warriors had to climb back into the game from down 10 as opposed to just kind of playing it from close, as poorly as the Warriors played at different points. If Dunleavy gives him 100, Diggum says he should be fired. I do not see a world where Brandon Podziemski is getting $100 million from the Warriors. I do not see that. I do not see what I do think that the agent, again, it's a negotiation, and I could see the Warriors. Let me be clear here, Diggum. I could see the Warriors saying 4 and 60, and I could see Podziemski and his agent saying 4 and 100. And having it be that far apart, and then you try to find some middle ground at some point in between to be able to make it work. But no, I don't see a scenario where the Warriors would pay that. Andres Garcia should have Seth been in the last couple of minutes of the game. I think he should. My question for you would be, for whom? I said you could have gone small. I don't think, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree, because he should have played instead of Pods. Pods was playing well enough to close the game tonight. He was, as one of your regular best players right now. He was playing well enough to close the game tonight. Could he have been out there? Yes, I think he could have been out there. But again, I'm kind of running through, if he's going to be out there, who would you have? You could have gone super small with Seth, with Melton basically at the 3, maybe Gee and Draymond, and then Podziemski out there as well. But there's a case to be made that maybe LJ Cryer should have played more throughout the course of the game, especially on a night where Melton ends up playing only the 20 minutes. And Melton's got to figure out a way. Melton's got to hit some of these layups. For as well as DeAnthony Melton played, Melton's missing a lot of layups. And, you could make the case on a couple of them. Maybe he's getting fouled and should have got a couple of calls there. But if there is one issue with DeAnthony Melton's game, it is the inability to finish around the basket on a night where he otherwise plays and performs pretty well. Drew Down, remember when the Warriors were the worst free throw taking and making team in the league, and then Jimmy got here? Sigh, Drew Down. Yeah, kind of been back to that. And I think that's also been some of the over-dependence on the three-point shot. And we've seen some of the over-dependence on the three-point shot for the Warriors help make them a little bit more successful at times, but when the shots are going down. But tonight was one of those nights where I thought the over-dependence on the three-point shot really did them in, especially against that opponent that didn't really have any rim protection. One of the worst defensive teams in the NBA overall. And if you look at the three prior matchups between the two teams head-to-head, basically the Jazz had been able to score on the Warriors. The Warriors had just been able to outscore them. So you take some of the firepower away, it still winds up being a relatively high-scoring game. But the Warriors' offense, I think, tonight, more than anything, does them in. And it was the free throw shooting and the three-point shooting that proved to be the difference. 808 KMBR, 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and take our first time out here as you listen to KMBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus media station. Warriors lose 119-116 to the Utah Jazz. That's right, the tanking Jazz beat the Dubs, just their 12th home win of the year, 20-45. Is Utah as they salvage 1 of 4 in the season series head-to-head. Warriors quick turnaround tomorrow as they are back to 500, and tomorrow becomes almost a must-win even for the depleted Warriors, and it sounds like they're going to have Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis and DeAnthony Melton all back for that one tomorrow. So we'll have Dubs OT for you immediately following that game as well. Let's take time out. We'll come back. A couple of phone lines open. Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. More in the YouTube chat straight ahead, as it is Dubs OT with JD right here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
13 to shoot. 32 seconds left in the game. Henson from deep hits a three. And that's 2 for 1 for him. So Blake Henson has a dozen. Utah takes the lead with 29.2.
If Blake Henson sending the Warriors home 116 to 113. At that point, Warriors lose this thing 119 to 116. Ugly loss to the Jazz as the Warriors go 1-2 on the road trip. And they're going to be back in action tomorrow at home against Chicago. 7 o'clock tip at Chase. We'll be at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City in the aftermath of that one. And suddenly, life comes at you fast. You look at the Warriors and feeling pretty good about the gritty, gutty Warriors' ability to get a win against the Rockets to open this trip. And they give it all back against the tanking Utah Jazz squad tonight. The Warriors not good enough to take the gift that basically the Jazz were trying to give to them. Too many bad shots, too many missed free throws. And again, just not a real buttoned up approach, I thought, from the Warriors offensively in this game, getting away from some of the things that they had been doing that had been working for them in some of these other shorthanded games. I do think they played hard. I don't think there was a gutless effort or anything like that. It was just I thought a lack of focus in terms of understanding the opponent you were playing against and where you were going to be able to get the best shots you could to have an attempt to generate enough offense. And we know for the most part right now, if the Warriors are going to lose these games, they're going to lose them in large part because of lack of offense. And the Jazz are one of these teams that you'd like to, if you're the Warriors, not have it be the case where you lose to them because of lack of offense, because they've been so woeful defensively themselves. Robert Brown, JD has the Clippers game on. You bet your ass I do, Robert, on the Peacock special tonight. But again, as our wonderful YouTube chat member pointed out, I can just get it through the YouTube TV, and I don't have to worry about the crappy Peacock app and it cutting out after every one trip down the court. Looks like me trying to run up and down 94. It just stops, just keeps stopping as I go back and forth. But yeah, Clippers on the verge with about 8 minutes to go of beating the Knicks. They're up 103-91, not to get lost in the standings here, but that's going to flip the two, I believe, with the Warriors and the Clippers. With the Warriors lost, they're now 32-32. The Clippers, if the Clippers get the win, they would be 32-32. And of course, the Warriors and the Clippers play one more time coming up in LA, down in Inglewood, to close out the season. Clippers have the tiebreaker currently. They have taken 2 of the first 3 head-to-head for the Warriors and the Clippers in the meetings, including last week's most recent meeting between the two at Chase Center. All right, let's continue in the YouTube chat. Thoughts and comments on this one. Our question of the night that just kind of organically happened: what would you pay Brandon Pajemski in terms of a contract extension? Because he is going to be extension eligible come the summer and the lead up to the beginning of next season. I think the deadline to get one done is at some point in the first week of the season. It's that October 30th or 31st-ish deadline. I think it may fluctuate depending upon when the actual opening night of the season is set for next year. Estimated eyes in the YouTube chat. They sat Al on the front end of the last back-to-back, and it didn't work out in our favor that time either. I'm trying to think here. When was that? That was what game was? Oh, it was the Pelicans game. It was the New Orleans game. They went to play them in Memphis and they lost the Pelicans game. And the Pelicans, this one is not that one, because I do think the Pelicans are playing better basketball. Like, the Pelicans are not, contrary to popular belief, the Pelicans are actually not tanking because they don't have their own draft pick. And they're, for the most part, playing a lot of their regular guys as they've gotten healthier. And if you recall, that was the game a couple of weeks ago that I looked at the the JD first 5 minutes rule, and I was like, oh my God, like the Pelicans have way more talent than the Warriors. Like, how are the Warriors going to hang in this game? That was not the case tonight. But regardless, we talked on Saturday about the need to be strategic in how you manage these back-to-backs, especially now that you, in theory, have Porzingis healthy and available to start playing more frequently, at least if you believe what Kristaps Porzingis said in the aftermath of the game at Oklahoma City. And I got to wonder, is some of the thought – I just think they thought they could beat Utah without Horford because of the lack of bigs, and I think it did estimated, to use your verbiage, it didn't work out in the Warriors' favor. I think it was a bad decision, frankly. I thought the Warriors got a little greedy. Good job, Nick. 7. Pods is absolutely terrible. Turned the ball over, got lost on defense, missed all his free throws. Yet he's in there and Curry's on the bench. I know he was on a minutes restriction, but read the game. Again, I think there's a case to be made that Seth could have been out there with Pods and Melton. And I mean, again, it's, Steve talked about on Saturday, the Warriors are kind of at a point where you just play your best players on a given night, given who's out there. And I do think Pods was one of their 5 or 6 best players tonight. You could say it was a bad night, but Seth Curry, I think you could also make that case. Again, I'm interested to hear what Steve says post-game about the Seth minutes restriction, because he played 12, and typically, usually the lightest minutes restriction you'll hear of is about 15. Like, he can get 3 5-minute runs, or you want to give him, 4 4-minute runs, and it basically ends up being about 15, 16 minutes. So I don't disagree with the last part. And if he was on a restriction of under 15, there was still time to get him out there for 3 more minutes. So that doesn't, and it could have been the final, 3 minutes of the game. And he was definitely shooting it well enough to warrant being out there. So no disagreement on the last part of that. Drew Down, I get not playing KP in Utah, but the Warriors desperately missed Al and his steady post play. I mean, you have them both. I mean, what logical world that you have 2 bigs on your roster and neither one of them are going to play back-to-backs, and you give them both the front end off and then line it up where basically both are going to play the next night? Kind of makes me wonder if maybe Porzingis isn't going to play tomorrow night. And they, we'll see. I've got the injury report here. What was the official designation for Porzingis tonight?
I believe illness management is how they.
Yeah, illness. Okay, illness management. So they gave him the front end of the back-to-back off. So that's basically, we don't play him in back-to-backs, and we're choosing not to play him tonight because of, it can be, left knee management if it's somebody off an ACL. It could be Achilles management if it's somebody off an Achilles. Like, it could be, you name the, knee tendon, knee runner's knee management if it's Steph. Like, you can name different things. So, so I guess, and we'll find out around 1:00 tomorrow for sure, a designation for who's going to be in and who's going to be out. But I just don't see any logical world where you would do that, unless there's also one other thought. Maybe they're going to give Draymond the night off tomorrow in the second of the back-to-back, and they want to have Porzingis and Horford available to play because they're not going to play Draymond maybe. But I just think they got greedy and thought they could get away with it, and it turns out they couldn't. They weren't good enough to get away with it, and they definitely missed out tonight. Even if the Dubs lose out, they're still likely in the play-in. That'd be 32-50. Be 32-50. Yeah, I mean, they'd have a shot to still be in the play-in. You look at where, Memphis right now is 23-40. So if the Warriors lost out, they'd be 32-50. You look at the level that Memphis is playing right now, Kyle, and they are playing at, and this is their overall, they're playing at a 29 win pace. That is their overall pace for the year. They've dialed that pace back in a major way. They're playing. That's probably true. Fact check, Kyle. True. The Warriors probably could lose out and still be 10th in the Western Conference and still get in to the play-in tournament. But at that point, you'd be 10th and you'd be going to Portland. And, we've seen how that's worked out for the Warriors twice already this year in Portland. Steph went nuts in a game in Portland and they got beat. And then they played, 3rd and 4 nights to begin the season against Portland and got smoked up there and were tapping out by the first 5 minutes of the third quarter back in October. So it's not going to be any picnic. And look, if you want to see the Warriors have a chance to get in and play a playoff series, even if that's going to be their ceiling, you want them to try to get to the 8. But the truth is, and I think they can see it, you do the math. And with the way Memphis is going, they probably could. They probably could go 18 in the final 18 games and still find their way to eke into a play-in tournament spot, and maybe not even eke in. Maybe just outright make it by 3 games. Because I tell you, Memphis ain't winning 29. They're on full season 29 win pace, but they are not winning 29. They are not. To win 29, that would be. They'd have to win 8. They have to win 6 more games, and I don't think they could. I don't think they want to win 6 more games.
And I mean, furthermore, the Warriors. Yeah, they're 32-32. Grizzlies have 23 wins right now, so they need to win 9 to tie the Warriors' 32 wins on the season, which no, not happening. Not happening.
Yeah, they're not winning 9. They're not winning 9. They're definitely not winning 9. 510, the Golden State Lumber Showroom text line. The Jazz, OMG, it was obvious they tried their best to give that game away in the last 3 minutes with all them weird turnovers. Yeah, how about George not being out there down the stretch? It was curious. It reminded me of, remember, I think it was a month ago tonight on February 9th at Chase when the Grizzlies had that 10-point lead with about, 6 minutes to go at Chase. So maybe it was even a little bit less than that. And they pulled guys that had played well in that game. And they started curiously turning the ball over. And of course, the Jazz are one of the teams that's already been fined. But I gotta wonder if the league looks at Keontae George just kind of tapping out for the night, and the way that the Jazz played down the stretch and felt like maybe something was afoot there in the closing moments. But the Jazz were definitely trying to give it to the Warriors. And again, it's not so much the end of the game. It's the fact that if the Warriors had played any semblance of just a buttoned up game throughout the game, they would have probably taken control and won by 6-8 when the Jazz started really turning it over and kind of giving it away in those moments down the stretch. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's go rapid fire for about 5-6 minutes. Mickey D. Hinson likely going to be fined for making that last 3. Utah might have taken the lead tonight, by the way, for players I hadn't heard of. Who he play for? If we did the who he play for, they had, they had a lot of guys that I either didn't know they were on the Jazz or hadn't seen play a lot of NBA minutes. I'll be honest. And if you remember, I haven't seen the Jazz even against the Warriors as much this season. If you recall, both times the Jazz were at Chase Center were on nights where the 49ers played this year. So we actually didn't have Dubs OTs on either of those nights. I think one of the 4 or 5 times we didn't have Dubs OT throughout the course of the season. But yeah, Hinson knocking the Warriors down. Blake Hinson going night-night against the Warriors. That in a vacuum, Kyle, is a pretty low freaking moment for this team on a Monday in March with a bunch of guys out.
That one hurts, and it also just kind of eclipses the Warriors season as a whole in a nutshell right there.
It just ties it all up at this point. Remember when Blake Hinson knocked the Warriors out of a game with a dagger in the final 30 seconds? Adam Silver busy canceling Magic City Night. Tanking is on the back burner now. Yeah, how about that? Magic City Night got canceled. The key stakeholders wanted no part of it. A week from tomorrow in Hotlanta. No hoodie and lemon pepper wings for the fine folks of the ATL next week on Magic City Night against the Magic, by the way. Think of the tie-in. I mean, they tried to do it right in every way imaginable, and then the league came in and said, no, can't do that. Like, really? Like that's what we're focused on right now? Come on. And if you don't know what Magic City is, then ChatGPT it. Google it. I think most of our audience probably does, at least in the YouTube chat. Maybe the radio audience, not as much. Hey, Beerman, JD was sending Al and KP home on Kerr or the collective. I'm guessing it's a collective. I'm going to find out more, and that will be a question. I will say this: that will be a question if we don't get an answer to that question tonight in what Steve said in Salt Lake City. That's an easy question that I can ask tomorrow in the pregame press conference. Just what was the thinking? Who makes that decision? So I'm going to make a note of that if we don't get the answer tonight, Beerman, that I will personally ask the question to Steve tomorrow at 5:15. When everybody convenes at Chase Center, and we can pass along the information to you on Dubs OT tomorrow night. But yeah, I would imagine that it is the collective, and I should go back also and listen to his pregame from tonight. I didn't get a chance to do it. Usually I will get a chance to listen to the feed, even not being in attendance covering the game in person. Wherever I'll get a chance to go back and listen. They will post it to where the media can have access to it. So I can go back and see if it was addressed in the pregame press conference tonight as well. All right, let's keep it rolling here. 808 KMBR, jokes on you. JD Pods infuriates because he goes 6 for 6, then does this garbage. LJ Cryer gets the Moody Blazer game treatment. This team's inconsistency is maddening. With all the people sitting, Dre is the tallest. Yeah, again, we've well litigated the not having Horford and Porzingis part of it, but you're spot on about Podziemski, and it's the fact that the Warriors are so, you said it, inconsistent, that they find themselves in these positions where we're actually debating Podziemski or LJ Cryer. And that's the part for me that's the bigger tell than anything. Sure, Seth maybe should have played 3 more minutes. LJ Cryer could have played a few more minutes. And we can, maybe Pods plays 30 instead of 35. And there's, 3 more minutes here and a couple more minutes there for those guys. But the bigger problem is we're debating Brandon Podziemski, and it isn't this way every night. But it's been this way far too many times. And this was a when the Warriors were healthy problem as well. This is not just a Warriors are up against it right now playing a bunch of G Leaguers and back into the roster guys. The Warriors had too many nights where there were too many players that didn't play well. And it was always, if you remember, Kyle, there's always the other guy that didn't play on a given night. Could he have done better? He did play better. And so you find yourself like, it's no way to live if you're debating Brandon Podziemski versus LJ Cryer versus Seth Curry versus DeAnthony Melton versus Will Richard versus like every single night. Like if you're really trying to find the hot hand every single night, it just means you stink. You stink. You don't have enough talent. And again, I don't mean to be harsh about it, but that's just the truth. And I will say, giving Podziemski, and people are not going to like me saying this, giving Podziemski the run to finish these games, even if he fails, I do think is beneficial for his development moving forward. It doesn't, because you got to know whether he can grow into being able to do it. I think the answer is pretty clearly he's not going to grow into being able to do it. But right now, where winning is not really the most important thing night in, night out, I do think, figuring out what Podziemski can be here in the last 18 games, again, even though I think we already kind of know, I feel like that is more important on some scale than playing LJ Cryer a little bit more because he had the hot hand, or playing Seth Curry. We know who Seth Curry is a little bit more because he had the hot hand. That being said, I would have played them both. I would have played Cryer more tonight, earlier in the game, and I would have played Seth and gone small. I'd have gone 3 guard basically down the stretch. I would have gone Pods, Melton, Seth, Santos, and Draymond. And I would have ditched Quentin Post. I would have ditched Nate Williams, who was hustling around and doing the best he can, but didn't really get any fourth quarter run anyway. But I think that would have been the combination of trying to play your best players you possibly can here to close out the night, kind of like the way the Warriors tried to do it on Saturday. Let's do one more. Irwin Kwong, Horford being out of this game shows how effective he is to the Warriors offense and defensively. Yeah. And him and Draymond have been kind of a 1-2 punch defensively in the games that they've played together of late. And I think that's been beneficial. And you've seen a lot of what the plan was, I think, going back to the beginning of the season, to lessen Draymond's need to have to play the 5 as much. And I was somebody that was more reluctant to playing Draymond at the 4, but if Horford's going to play the way he has, and you're going to have Porzingis, that is a way. And we've seen it with Draymond. Like, Draymond has been more effective defending wing type players and guards of late than he has been needing to defend the bigs. And I think, he went from, Shea and KD and Kawhi, and he was guarding all kinds of different players. And again, not the best big. He's guarding the best wing or best, big guard, and really trying to take the ball away from him before, take the possession away from him before players get the ball, like really denying and trying to prevent possession. So yeah, Horford's been, you could make the case, Kyle, that Horford's been the Warriors' best player the last 6 weeks. It's him or Melton, right? Am I crazy? Him and Melton and Moody before Moody got hurt.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, them 3.
Those have been the Warriors' 3 best players. And by the way, if you have Moses Moody tonight, not to make excuses, you probably wind up winning this game as well, because you've got another wing to throw out there down the stretch. And maybe you're not in this position where you're debating LJ Cryer or Seth Curry over Podziemski or Melton or somebody else. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. If you want to join the conversation, the phone lines, we'll get more from the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. Really appreciate everybody sticking with us tonight as the Warriors lose to the Utah Jazz, 119-116, the final. Warriors back in action tomorrow. We'll get our Sounds of Dubs OT coming up. More comments from the YouTube chat. We'll play some Draymond Green as well. He had a special message to fans that maybe would prefer the Warriors shop Draymond here coming up in the offseason, or prefer that he were already gone, going back to the trade deadline, which is now passed here from the last month in February. So we'll get into that coming up next right here on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
Warriors lose 119 to 116. They're about to be tied in the Western Conference play-in race for the 8 seed. The Clippers about to polish off the Knicks up by 6 with 35 seconds to go down in Inglewood. So that would put the Clippers at 32 and 32. The Warriors 32 and 32 with their loss tonight against the Jazz in Salt Lake City. So the Warriors, based on the head-to-head, 2 of 3 for the Clippers in the win column against the Warriors. And that head-to-head gives the Clippers the 8 right now, the Warriors the 9. So the Warriors would be hosting Portland. The Clippers would be going to Phoenix. And the Warriors would have to win 2 games in the play-in tournament to try to give themselves a shot at getting into the first round. And, oh, by the way, if you're the 9-10, then that means you can only become the 8 seed by winning 2 games out of the 9-10 bracket. And that means you'd be, in all likelihood, taking on Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City has kind of refound their form tonight, SGA, in a big way. They've got a 3-game lead over the San Antonio Spurs for the top spot. Also have to keep an eye on 10th because, and you got to keep it 100. The Warriors are only a game and a half up on Portland for 10th. And again, Portland, if you recall, has the tiebreaker, the arch nemesis of the 25-26 Warriors, Kyle, the Blazers who beat the Warriors the first 3 times they played head-to-head here this season. And so the Warriors would not have the tiebreaker against Portland if they wind up tied. So there's a decent shot the Warriors, realistically speaking, if they have to play through that long 6-game road trip without Steph. I know we've kind of talked about, can they get 8? And, tonight really hurts that ability to get 8 versus 9. Truth is, they could be 10. And nights like tonight kind of make you think, you better get tomorrow or you might not win for a while. Again, kind of back to where we were a week ago when the Warriors got beat at home by the Clippers. All right, let's get to our sounds at Dubs OT. We'll hear a couple from Steve Kerr. We'll hear one from Seth Curry as he played for the first time in over 3 months tonight. And then we will hear Draymond Green calling out Warrior fans as well on a podcast. So we'll do that to close out sounds of Dubs OT. But let's hear from Steve Kerr first, addressing having Seth Curry back as an option tonight for the Dubs.
Seth was great. It's really fun to have him out there, and he can light it up in a hurry, and great scoring threat. One of the best shooters in the league. So it was really nice to have him back.
Is the plan for him to play tomorrow as well?
I don't know.
All right, so there you go. And man, we've joked, Kyle, about the Warriors having the all load management team, the all can't. I mean, you can just add Seth. I don't even think I counted Seth when we were going through that entire.
No, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, but
God, you got. I mean, think about it. Like Steph, we're just gonna you could have Steph, you could have Jimmy next year. You could put Draymond on that plan. You're going to put Horford on that plan. You hope you can put Porzingis on that plan because it means he would have been worth re-signing. Did I mention Melton? No.
Not Melton.
That's 6.
Yeah.
Seth could be 7. You could have 7 guys. Am I forgetting somebody that's also on that plan? You could have 7 guys on the – well, the good news is you can play 3 one night and 4 the next. You can just split it up.
Yeah, that –
split it.
It works itself out in a way,
Oh, yeah. We were also talking about, hey, they might get LeBron. That could be 8. That could be an 8th guy. Or Kawhi. That could be an 8th guy. You get LeBron or Kawhi, you could factor that. You could factor that in. Hell, even if you trade Giannis will be a sometimes guy. Giannis got the calf. We got to keep him out. The Warriors could have the all load management, can't play back-to-backs team. Although should point out, we'll let Steve Kerr point out the reason that Melton was limited tonight to 20 minutes.
Anthony, 7 minutes in the first half, and after you see bigger workload in the second, was that part of your plan going in?
Yeah, because he's going to play tomorrow. So we're playing Melt for the first time on back-to-back, and so we wanted to limit his minutes to 20 tonight.
All right. So, I think that's good news. That's some good news. DeAnthony Melton actually starting to play in back-to-backs. I don't think it'll be every back-to-back, but let's see how he reacts to it. I'm not sure I'd be looking to do that. I guess the upside is trying to figure out how he responds to it, knowing that you have 2 days off after the next game. So it could be kind of a test case to see can you do it another time or two here between now and the end of the regular season, because we got into it. You've got the back-to-back tonight, Utah and Chicago, and then you've got another one coming up next Sunday, Monday, New York and Washington, D.C. on the road trip. They also have one toward the back end of that road trip that will see them go to Detroit and Atlanta in a back-to-back. And then they've got two more in April, a home back-to-back where they play the Spurs and the Cavs, and then they've got another back-to-back where they play the Lakers and the Kings. They'll play 3 games in the final 4 days of the regular season. The final home game on April whatever that is, April 9th, and then they go to Sac on the 10th and then play the Clippers to close things out on the door. So they've got 5 sets of back-to-backs, starting with the one that began tonight. So maybe you test it out when you've got a little more breathing room on the back end with Wednesday and Thursday off before the Warriors take on Minnesota Friday, and you see how Melton responds to it and if it's something that maybe you can get away with. But on the surface, I actually kind of don't like that because I don't know. Like, things have been going so well. I would tend to maybe want to be a little bit more precautionary with Melton here, especially having him be a player that you really want to be able to retain for next season. Let's hear one from Seth Curry, a little bit of a Seth Curry theme. Only 12 minutes for Seth, but he was cooking tonight, hit 2 of 3 from 3, hit 3 free throws, 4 of 6 overall. He was a +3, scored 13 points, one of, 8 in double figures for the Warriors tonight. Only the 12 minutes, had 3 assists as well. Like, Seth looked really good. Here's Seth Curry on playing for the first time in over 3 months.
I mean, I don't know exactly when. I just popped up one more. I couldn't move at all. So it was like a month time where I couldn't, I really couldn't move. I was just laying at home. And then just once the pain went away, I was able to rehab and try to get all my movement back. But it's been tough. I mean, kind of got a taste of it a few months ago, and then once again having to watch. But it's tough. I feel like I could have helped with all the injuries and all the stuff going on. I feel like I could have helped throughout the season to put us in a better spot. But it's good to be out here and try to close this year positively and get better day by day.
And that's 2 of the 3 games where Seth Curry that he's played in this year where he has really helped. That OKC game back at Chase in early December, the game tonight, he really helped. And detailing some of what happened with the injury, basically felt a pop, and then the sciatica was back, and then he had to wait for the pain to go away. Again, I mean, LeBron had it, Horford had it, but that was 3 months ago. I mean, that was the early part of that was 3 months ago that he was last played with the sciatica. So we'll see if he can help him down the stretch and whether he's going to need somebody that's included in the crew that can't play in the back-to-backs here. All right, let's hear our final piece of sound. Kyle, where was this? Was this from Draymond's podcast, or was he a guest on another podcast? I want to make sure I get that straight.
He was a guest on another podcast called Unguarded.
Okay, got it. So he was a guest on another podcast, Unguarded, and Draymond Day had a little message for Warrior fans that want him gone. Hopefully we got our bleeps in here.
I see fans saying different now. I'll see Warriors fans like, yo, it's time to get him out of here.
That's crazy.
And to the real Warriors fans that don't feel that way, thank you. I appreciate it. To the ones that do feel that way, like you was a loser before I got here. Like stone cold forever losers.
Yeah, right.
So if you say that, it makes sense to me. You never been here. Right? So you don't know how to appreciate something for its entirety because you never been here. You never had the opportunity to do that. So great, I'll be the test run, right? Like this, hopefully, I love this organization. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm lucky that like it's that simple.
So you think Draymond's opting in? I think Draymond's opting in. That's what that unless he can get a few more years. We the champs, unguarded like Draymond on the perimeter. That's what Fred VanVleet is a part of that podcast, I think, right? I don't know if he was a part of this episode, but I think Fred VanVleet's a part of that podcast. But yeah, funny comment there, Max. Look, Max is not one of the real ones. I lost where Max was on that, so I can't take Max off the screen. We the champs. No Dre, I'm just ready to move on. No Cap, FOH, he needs to go. I don't want to hear that ish from our buddy No Cap. Yeah, Andis. Dre has a burner account on the socials. He's like Steph, petty. Look, here's the thing. If you can, it ain't personal. If the Warriors can look to move on from Draymond Green and it can help this team improve for next year and make one more run at trying to get Steph a title, then you look to move him. It's not just get rid of him because he's washed or anything like that. And, you know, I don't know. I think some might say that Draymond ain't wrong. You know, it is a different fan base than it was pre-dynastic run or even pre-Warriors got good in 2012 and 2013. Good. So, I don't know. It's a debate for the offseason, but I just thought it was interesting. I think Draymond is smoking that Gary Payton pack. All right. Yeah, we'll see. But I think there is an appreciation for what Draymond has provided this franchise. And I think you could also make the case that a lot of other franchises, even given everything that Draymond has brought to the table, would have already moved on. I think that's simple as it is. So I don't know. I think it's he deserves an appropriate amount of respect for everything that he's brought to the table, but he's also not above being moved on from if it can help the Warriors get closer to being a contender here next year. That's where I stand on it. And I think that is probably a closer debate and conversation than maybe some believe. Like some, and we've gone through a few in the chat that are just like, nah, get him out of here. Get him out of here. Gotta go. Ain't happening. So I think this is also a good point from Diggum. You talk like that when you see the end coming. I think that's a fair point. I think it's a real fair point. And I think Draymond, for the first time in the lead up to the trade deadline, did see the end coming. I think he thought, like this is the first time, and I know it never went far enough down that road of Draymond was going to be, you know, or that they were going to actually be able to complete a Giannis trade. But I think for the first time, Draymond, and he referenced this talking to Steve Kerr and kind of Steve checking in, are you good? Like and I think even acknowledging that you wanted or needed to have that conversation is an indicator that you believe, like, I think Draymond looked in the mirror and thought, damn, if they could get Giannis, I'm probably gone. Now, how close they actually got to that, it turns out, was maybe farther than we would have thought in the moment. but that's realistic. You know, having 1 year on the deal is realistic. The Warriors preferring you play out the 1 year as opposed to maybe ripping it up and going 3 years at a smaller AAV is another thing that makes it more realistic, right? I mean, because I think Draymond would do a 3 and 4, rip up the $27 million year and do something like 3 and 45. That could save the Warriors some money. Half of his deal next year could save him, but you're spreading it out. But I think the Warriors want the optionality of being able to put him in a deal if they think that's what's right. Mickey D, Draymond was an integral part of the dynasty, but he also is part of the demise. Yeah. I mean, that's just real. And Klay Thompson was part of the demise with his declining play. And the only reason things came to a head with Klay Thompson was because his contract was up at a point where he felt the Warriors needed to pay well above market value to keep him. The Warriors have not found themselves in that position with Draymond. And that's why I think Draymond is obviously still around at this point. So interesting. That's our Sounds of Dubs OT for this one. Let's wrap it up here with more from the YouTube chat, our final installment of Kyle's Clicks as Overnight Dave starts to settle in. JC Mack, let's put pods on the plan as well. The no back-to-back plan?
The load management plan. Put them on the team.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. One more back to We the Champs. So if I want to move on from Dre, I'm not a real fan. GTFO Dre. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Again, I think you can be a real fan and appreciate everything that he brought and want there to be a Draymond statue and jersey hanging from the rafters, and also understand that it might be time to move on. Because there comes a point where, and look, this is the truth of what the Warriors are going to have to examine in the offseason. Is it more valuable to have Draymond Green on the team next year at $27 million, or is it more valuable than to use his expiring contract to bring back another player that can help to a greater extent than Draymond Green? That's a legitimate basketball, franchise-oriented, how you manage it discussion in the offseason. Let's keep it rolling. Robert Brown, you're a real fan if you keep watching this horse bleep. We got a lot of real ones. Let me tell you, we know who the real ones are here on Dubs OT over the last 6 weeks. And I a lot of respect for the folks that have stuck with it. And I think for the most part, there's been some pretty unwatchable nights, but there have been enough interesting things to discuss to get us through our 90 minutes to 2 hours, I would say, on most nights without it feeling like we're pulling teeth. Now, they lose tomorrow at home to Chicago. Whew. At least we can have a beer or two. Well, at least your boy can have a beer or two tomorrow. Regardless, win or lose. The hospitality is very nice at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. Kyle can't have that. Overnight Dave can't have that. But no, I appreciate everybody here through the last 6 weeks, especially in the time. It was a blow. It was a blow to have Jimmy obviously go down and have the Warriors' ability to win a title this year gone in a blink. It was another blow to have Steph not freaking play since January 30th. I mean, do the math on that. I mean, that again, we're coming up on 6 weeks that he has not been available. We're never going to have another ring, are we? Pibilar in the YouTube chat. I mean, never say never. I will say this. It did not look like the Warriors were going to win another title 5 years ago at this time in 2021 with Klay Thompson out and the Warriors destined to lose in the play-in tournament and no shot at a title. Now, everybody's 5 years older at the point at which they're going to try to run it back with injury issues galore. But they've kind of been in this spot before, but again, 5 years younger, which gives you a better shot to be able to make that one more run. But I do think the Warriors are going to try to cobble together a 2026-27 version of 21-22, the best they can in the offseason. They owe it to Steph. They owe it to the fan base, but mostly they owe it to Steph to be able to do that. Let's keep it rolling. Rusty Nail. Kyle Chung needs his load drastically increased if we're going to turn this ship around. Yeah, Kyle Chung nowhere to be found tonight. Just MIA.
Yeah, he was stuck in doing 1050.
Yeah, he was just MIA tonight.
Just not on the court though. Poor guy.
And then he can't. Some nights he just can't get in the game. Some nights he can't get in the game despite what the stat sheet says. All right, let's keep it rolling here. We'll do a few more. 510 Steve, Warriors Jazz look like a South Park episode where both teams agreed beforehand to see who could try harder not to win. Woof. Yeah, it felt that way tonight, especially down the stretch with the Jazz choosing to not play a bunch of their key guys after already choosing to not play a bunch of their key guys to even begin the game. And then the Warriors, the overarching theme from tonight is the Warriors were still not good enough to take it. Rough night. Zerker X, courtside seats for tomorrow's game should be at $100. Well, check the aftermarket for tomorrow. Might be able to get some good deals tomorrow night for the Warriors. What's the get-in price? Should we look it up? What's the get-in price for tomorrow, Kyle? Let me look it up here.
I think I saw yesterday it was like 45.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, I'm going to pick StubHub. I'm going to say Warriors, Bulls tomorrow, StubHub, see tickets. How many tickets? Okay, I'm looking right now. 40 is the get-in price. 40 tomorrow. 40, 41, 43, including fees. Whew, lower level. 99. I see some 99 lower level.
Yeah. You'll never see lower
tomorrow.
level under 100.
I see some 99 lower level for tomorrow night against Chicago. Amazing value. StubHub is telling me here, but yeah, I'm looking at some 41s in the upper level. I'm looking at some 88s over by the media section. You come harass yours truly tomorrow, sitting like section 127 and just getting my view of the game. Just stand up all night and get my view of the game. Obstructed view. Max Lopez, when a beer costs more than the ticket. Yeah, interesting. And then not if you come to Harmonic before and after. Not if you come to Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City. We'll be there after tomorrow. We'll be there before and after on Friday with Dirty Work. Dirty Work's going to be out there Friday before the T-Wolves game, and then I'll have Dubs OT before and after both of those games. As we get into the 10 o'clock hour here, you're listening to KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the sports leader, Cumulus Media Station. Robert Brown, JD, for me, them playing hard is like me getting excited over a girlfriend not cheating on me or something. Man, that's cold. Cold world. Cold world for our buddy Robert. All right, let's get to our comment of the night. We got one better than that one?
Now,
I don't think so.
Time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Joke's on you in a response to Gene. Pods had the Kelce bet on free chicken sandwiches. Yeah, what is it? Chick-fil-A, I believe?
Yeah, Chick-fil-A. But I am curious if they get 2 free sandwiches since you went 0 for 4.
I believe it's just one.
Okay.
I believe it's just one. I think with that promotion, you only get it the first time, and then they don't run the promotion again the next time. But yeah, it is Chick-fil-A. And Pods got the fine folks of Utah their chicken sandos tonight. My goodness. They're 126 tomorrow. Who's in 126 tomorrow night? Somebody said they're in 126 tomorrow night. Anyway. There it is. Ray Area 36 in 126 tomorrow night. Stop by, say hi. Wave at me, Ray. Wave at me. I'll come down and meet you during the game. Sometimes they don't let you go up that high, but you're right there. You're right there in front of the media section tomorrow night. And again, come on out to Harmonic. All right, that'll do it. Let's close up shop. Kyle, big thanks to you as always. We'll call it a night. We got to do this again tomorrow. And then, of course, I'm going to be back with Greg Silver on Wednesday and Thursday. So no quick turnaround, but Krug's going to be in tomorrow with Greg Silver, and then I'll be back with Greg Silver Wednesday and Thursday. We'll have Dubs OT for you tomorrow and on Friday night as well out at Harmonic in Thrive City as the Warriors come home. Who do we need to thank tonight?
Chips McCarthy. And it was a shame you didn't get to see Kyle Chung on the court because he was running Mike Holler's 1050.
Got it. Chips McCarthy, and we'll give Kyle Chung a nod, even though he couldn't take the sweats off and actually get in the game. For Overnight Dave and for Kyle Harr, I'm JD. Hey, we're going to do this again tomorrow. Join us at 9:30, right at the conclusion of the Warriors and the Chicago Bulls for Dubs OT with JD right here on the Sports Leader. John Dickinson. No, God, please.